leaders, we're going to do something a little bit different in October. Every Monday I'm going to send you a short video that I hope is encouraging for you and allows you to just reflect a little bit on what it looks like to lead an MC. I know the work that we're in can often be distracting, or it can be disappointing. There can be moments where it seems like, God, are you even doing anything? And the work that you do is largely outward facing towards others, with very few people encouraging you on a regular basis. And so we want to make that a little bit different and just encourage you on the first Monday of every week. First Monday, because it's the only Monday, but you know what I mean. Monday morning you'll get a link and it'll be connected to a thought or a reality that roots us as we are leaders together in this church family and disciples of Jesus ourselves. The first thing I want to do, though, is root us again in the reality that before you were ever called to do anything for Jesus or with Jesus, you were called to Jesus. What do I mean? I mean that before there was ever any work to do, God looked at you as a daughter or a son and called you to himself to be at his table, enjoy freedom and healing and restoration and reconciliation and joy and hope and life in him. And that hasn't changed. I think many leaders often leave that space where they remember all that God is doing in them and all that he invited them into in those first moments, because they begin to become compelled by the list of things they feel like they have to do, instead of remembering to rest in what has already been done. I think of the words of John 15, where Jesus calls his disciples to remain in him, even as he would remain in them. And he called them a vine and said, here's the deal. You're the vine, I'm the vine, you're the branches. If you abide in me and I in you, then you will produce much fruit. I think sometimes we think that that means we should always have fruit. There should always be things happening. There should always be growth, either in us or in the lives of people in our MC. But that's not the way that fruit works. Fruit has a season. Imagine walking up to an orange tree as it's in between seasons, seeing no fruit on it and chopping it down. It'd be foolish, right? Or if you were owning a vineyard like Jesus was talking about, and you looked out and you saw no grapes and withered stems, and you're like, man, it must be time. This thing's not going to produce fruit. Let's chop it down. And the answer wasn't don't cut it down, but wait for its season. Keep it together. Keep watering it. Keep nurturing it. Keep caring for it. Because if it remained in him, it would bear fruit. I think the same thing's true about your life and the life of your Missio community. That if you remain in him, he will produce fruit. Don't grow discouraged in this moment, but deepen your abiding in Jesus. Rest in him. Rejoice in him. Remember the goodness that comes from the gospel for you. Before you're ever sent out, you were called in, and get to enjoy that relationship still. When we forget that, we can often move towards frustration instead of hope when it comes to people in our MCs. We look out and we say, man, this is not working, things will never change, and we grow frustrated instead of letting the current situation fuel our hope because we believe that God is stronger. Or we can move towards prayerlessness. We start to just act without even considering what God might be up to in that moment. We see the conflict, or we see the repeat sinful pattern, and we just want to toss in the towel, instead of remembering that God is at work in this very person's life, just like he is in yours. And so we want to be prayerful presences, discerning what God's up to in any given moment, not just driven anxious activity or frustration. I'd love if you this week, even in a text thread with some of your leaders, or else even process it on your own in a journal, but ask the question, do I feel like I'm abiding in Jesus? Like, are the rhythms of my life deeply formed to keep me close to Jesus and experience the good news for myself? If they are, be encouraged. He will bear fruit. If they're not, be convicted and turn in repentance and reform those rhythms of abiding deeply in Jesus. He loves you. He welcomes you in, and he is going with you. I do pray and hope that this encourages you a little bit as you set out for the work this week, Missio. You're deeply loved by God. If you need to talk, feel free to reach out. Hope you guys have a week spent in incredible intimacy with Jesus, being led to joy and hope and freedom that he came to give. Have a good one.